We're back after a little hiatus. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, John.
How are you?
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm good. What about you?
I feel like you're a little close to me, a little on top of me. Is that intentional, or are you?
Trust me, the last place I want to be is on top of you.
That makes two of us. Anyway, so tonight, why don't you do your little, your intro thing that you always do, and then we'll get into it.
Thank you for watching. How can you say that? As you may have noticed, or maybe not, we were gone for a while. John, the hero, went to Israel amidst of all the commotion.
Yes.
And so tonight, we are dedicating this segment for Man Boy to tell us about his bravery or madness, either one you decide. So tonight, I'm looking forward with eagerness to find out about his.
You were going to say enthusiasm, but you changed it.
Because since he has come back, he has refused to tell me anything because he claims when he tells me things ahead of time, and then he mentions them on the show, I act disinterested and bored.
Well, that's actually what you said. You said, if I hear it again, I'm going to be bored, so don't tell me. That's what actually happened.
All right. Well, that could be true, although I don't recall. But
It's
anyway, tonight is you're watching segment 27 of How Can You Say That? And we have dedicated this segment to the title Israel, because Man Boy here actually went there and has just come back. And the day he was leaving, we all thought he was crazy. But as you can see, he's back in one piece, and I can't wait to hear all that happened during the
Yes. Well, it was certainly an interesting time, and I have a lot to share. I think tonight, as opposed to your usual childish antics, I think we should be a little bit more serious, because it's actually a very serious topic that we're going to be discussing tonight. I actually want to share a very, very interesting experience that I had there also, which
before you continue,
I'll cut off already.
Apologize for calling me some childish antics.
I didn't call you. I said you sometimes have childish antics.
Okay.
That's a good thing. It means you're playful and young at heart, and it's a good thing. It's just not appropriate for tonight, being that there's a war.
Thank you so much, my father, for telling me how to behave while you carry on with your diatribe.
All right, enough.
I will sit quietly and listen.
Thank you. Excellent. All right, so let's talk a little bit. By the way, this is segment number 27. I don't know if you mentioned that. No, you didn't.
Clearly doesn't listen.
But maybe did. I apologize. So last segment, at the end of the last segment, which was a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, we mentioned at the end that I was headed off to the Holy Land, to Israel, for my son's wedding. Are you disinterested already? I just opened my mouth.
Trying to set our timer. I'm not being rude. I noticed it's set for 1 hour and 26 minutes.
Oh, it's going to be a long podcast.
Made a mistake. Yes. Anyway, carry on.
Anyway, so we had a little bit of drama that came up in the form of a war that sort of tried to get in the way of the wedding. And I want to give you a little backstory, and then I want to kind of get into what happened, and then the spectacular event that occurred, which always, something magical always seems to happen in Jerusalem. And we'll get into that in a second. So long story short, my son was getting married, and we had planned this wedding a number of months ago, and my dream was to do the wedding in Israel. Fortunately, my son's in-laws were born in Israel. They have a lot of family there, so they were on board, and everything worked out great. We spent months making plans, and not easy planning things in another country, of course, as well. Anyway, so long story short, we're supposed to leave on Monday, Columbus Day. And, I'm Jewish and a Sabbath observer, which means I don't use electronics on the Sabbath starting Friday night. So basically from Friday night until Saturday night, sundown Friday night till sundown after the Sabbath, I'm in the dark in terms of what's happening in the world, unless I get a newspaper and it's something from the prior day. So that's a little backstory. Now let's get into it. Anyway, Saturday morning, knock on my door. Look out the peephole. It's my wife's father. Karen, your father's here. Comes Saturday mornings a lot of times, and I see he has this look in his face of like, ready to fight. I don't know. He just did something didn't look right. So he comes into the house. I went upstairs because I was just about to get in the shower. He comes inside and he tells my wife, he says, I want to talk to you and your husband right now, privately. Are your kids home or whatever? So my daughters were home, but they were upstairs. My son, he didn't want to talk in front of my son.
Isn't your father-in-law Jewish?
Of course.
So why was he watching TV?
Ah, good question. So he wakes up for temple Saturday morning. He sets his alarm clock, and his alarm clock goes on to the news. He didn't catch me at anything. That's what happens. You're allowed to set something before the Sabbath to go on. Lights, radios, whatever. So he wakes up to his clock radio, which is on the news. So I come downstairs. I'm like, hey, how you doing? He goes, we need to talk. I said, what's the matter? He goes, and this is how he starts off. You really effed up. And I look at him and I'm like, I don't know. You gave birth to her and I married her. What do you want from me? Talking about my wife. As a joke, I thought I'd like, warm the crowd up a little bit, but he was pissed. What was he talking about? He goes, there's war in Israel right now that broke out this morning. Hundreds of people are dead. You planned a wedding in Israel. What's your backup plan now? And I had no idea what he's even talking about because I didn't hear the news. And I said, well, first of all, I have no idea what you're talking about. Secondly, I didn't make a contingency plan for war. I apologize. Generally speaking, when planning for a joyous occasion, we don't make a contingency plan for war, maybe even for natural disasters or anything. We just make our plans and hope that their flight can get there and everything. Anyway, so I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, war broke out there this morning. I said, well, what do you mean war broke out? Because, yeah, there was an attack. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, wait, he gets into the whole thing. Totally caught me off guard, said hundreds of people are dead. But let me just give a little clarity on the hundreds of people are dead. Israel's a country of about 7.5 million people. So on a percentage basis, if let's say 1,000 or 1,500 people are killed, that's the same percentage numbers as if like 40,000 Americans would be killed based on population percentages. So even during the 6-Day War in Israel, 1967, I think they lost 600 soldiers the whole war. And that was a catastrophe. And here he is at my house telling me hundreds of people were dead. So this was shocking. And I was really caught off guard. Ended up leading into this giant fight with my father-in-law. Married for almost 30 years, never really had a fight with him. But this just opened the can of worms. Anyway, so we had to make a decision. What are we doing? And once the Sabbath was over, we turned on the news and heard everything. It turns out all the flights were canceled to all the airlines, except for Israel's national airline, El Al, because they were flying home Israelis from all over the world that were in the army that wanted to come back and fight. So fortunately, we were booked on El Al. And my wife said, well, I'm not going. You got to be crazy to go. And I said, not really saying that you're wrong, but we have everything planned. And my son's future wife is already in Israel. They're there. Her father said they couldn't get flights home. So what do you want to do? She can't come home and we have flights to go. What do you want to do? Long story short, not going to bore you with all the details. We made the decision we're going to go. My son says, I'm getting married on Thursday in Israel. You're either coming or you're not. You could choose. So we didn't have a choice. My daughters were too afraid to go, and I don't blame them for that at all. But we decided we're going to go, and I said, the only way we're not going to go is if our flights get canceled. If they get canceled, that's God's way of saying, I don't want you to go. And if they're on, that means we're going to be safe. Again, fast forward, we get on the flights, everything's fine, we get there. So we get there Tuesday afternoon, and the wedding is scheduled for Thursday. We were supposed to have 300 people. Turns out probably more than 100 of them were called up to the army and couldn't go. The live stream guy, a couple of people from the band, a couple of photographers, all were called up to the army. So my son's father-in-law had to frantically search for people to fill in, and basically like, here, do you know how to hold a camera? Okay, yeah, you're the new camera guy. It was very fly by the seat of your pants. So here's the thing. Marrying off your oldest child, which you should be blessed to do one day, you should be blessed to marry off both of them. But your oldest is, I guess, it's the first time around. It's a very emotional experience, marrying off your child when it's the oldest and it's the first. For a Jewish person to do it in the Holy Land in Israel is also another step of emotion and meaningfulness and spiritualness. And then to do it during the time of conflict, where you're saying to the terrorists, look, I'm not going to let you destroy this. We're going to do this. And for the Israelis to be so happy that we were coming and showing solidarity was really, it took everything to another level. And during the ceremony, after they got married, singing all these, I don't use the word patriotic, but very songs about Israel and everything, and the whole crowd joining in. And for people at home watching it, listening to it, it was just really, really meaningful and really spiritual. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience. But what I really want to talk about is what occurred on Wednesday. So here's the thing. We get there Tuesday afternoon, and we had one day to be able to do what we want, which was Wednesday. And, you know, you're in Israel, there's a lot of things to do, but also you want to be careful because of the rocket attacks and the war going on. And we were in Jerusalem, and people were afraid to travel. The roads were kind of empty. Tourists really weren't there. Everyone was kind of fleeing the country. And on Wednesday, we decided to go to this market, do a couple of things. And then my son says, okay, it's time for evening prayers. I want to go to the Western Wall, or in Hebrew, as we call it, the Kotel, which is the holiest place in the Jewish religion. It's the wall that was from the second Jewish temple that was built in Jerusalem, you know, thousands of years ago on the Temple Mount, was where the temple was. Now it's the Alaska Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. Mm. But the original outer wall, the Western Wall, is still standing from that original temple. And what you see is not even what's standing. It goes well below ground and all over. It's an amazing thing. Again, off topic. So my son says, it's time for evening prayers. I want to go to the Western Wall. And I said, are you out of your freaking mind? I said, we're not walking there. It's dangerous. You got to go through the Arab area. I said, we're not, I'm not taking public transportation, because a lot of times public transportation in Israel gets bombed. Buses, light rail, and things like that. It's not safe.
So your bravery had limitations.
Oh, I was a complete win.
Oh, okay.
I was welcomed back to the studio as a war hero when I got back, but I wasn't in combat. I just simply made the decision to go and hope that I didn't die.
I just have to insert that.
It's okay. You can insert whenever you want. Anyway, so I say to my son, I really don't think that's a great idea. He goes, well, I'm going. So I said, well, we can't let you go alone. Karen, we're going to the Western Wall. So we go. So let me give you a little backstory to this and why this event became such a spectacular
occurrence. Us the backstory. Please give us the backstory. Okay. We're dying to hear.
So the backstory is as follows. And really the purpose of this story is to show how God works and how God operates and how events, as I'm sure you've had in your life, events happen. And a lot of times you can't connect all the dots and complete the circle until later on. You have all these scattering of events, and then something occurs and ties things together. And you're like, oh my God, now it completely makes sense. So here's a little bit of the backstory. I discussed on prior podcasts, I'm not going to rehash, but I discussed on prior podcasts this family connection that we have with this rabbi in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, called the Culliver Rabbi. It's from the Culliver dynasty of Hasidic Jews that goes back to, I don't remember if it's Hungary or whatever, some European country. And there's been a lot of very interesting experiences we had with him. He's one of these Kabbalistic rabbis that just sees things that ordinary people don't see. It's him and his son. He's a much older guy, probably in his 80s, 90s, whatever, and the son's probably in his 60s. And it's amazing how things that he's told me and my family and how it's all played out. The guidance has just been like spot on, literally amazing. So my son had hosted an event for him a number of months ago in our neighborhood at a local temple. And when he was there, my son said, you know, go talk to him, go say hello. And I kind of really wanted to be taking a back seat. But the reason why is because every time I speak to him, I have some fear of what he's going to tell me, you know, what he thinks I'm thinking, what he wants me to do, giving me some task or some job that I have to do. And if he tells me to do something, how do I say no? You just have to do it. This is like what we call in Hebrew, Gadol Hador, meaning like a generational figure, right? So I'm like, I said to my son, like, no, I'll just sit back here. He's like, no, go talk to him. So I begrudgingly walk over and I'm like, hi, Rabbi, how are you? Thank you for all you've done for my family and for my son and all this good stuff. And we're talking a little bit, and he says to me, he goes, do you learn like Bible and stuff during the day ever at all? Torah, as they call it in Hebrew. And I said, well, no, not really. I go, my son listens to things in the house and I listen if I'm there, but not on any sort of schedule or any sort of, set period of time or whatever. So he says to me, he goes, I want you to learn Torah. or the Old Testament. He goes, I want you to learn 20 minutes a day. Can you do that? So again, you don't say no. You just say, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, no problem, whatever. Okay, fine. So after when I walked away, my son's like, you have to do that now, right? I said, I don't know. It was like spur of the moment. I agreed to it. He's like, no, you have to do it. I guess it's sort of like the Pope telling you, you have to do this, you have to do that. I mean, you're going to tell the Pope.
But I wouldn't listen to the Pope. Sorry.
Oh, well, if he told you, you wouldn't. You would.
No, sorry. What? Keep going with your story.
Okay.
I'm not like you when it comes. Anyway, keep going.
Why am I so disheveled? Shirt's all wrinkled. Anyway, so
When are you not?
What?
I think, yeah, keep going with the story.
So every day I'm in my car, have about a half-hour drive to work each way, and I start listening to these things, and I'm very strict with it. I go, all right, even if it's in the middle of the sermon thing, 20 minutes, goodbye, okay, done, I did my obligation. And I started listening to this one rabbi. This rabbi's name is Rabbi Moshe Chaim, and he teaches in a school in Jerusalem, in the old city of Jerusalem. And he teaches like kids that graduated, I think he teaches kids that graduated graduated high school and are going to colleges, that gap year in between where a lot of Jewish kids go to learn for the year in Israel. My son did that also. My daughter did that. One of my daughters did that. So I'm listening to this guy, and I realize I'm like, well, I'm only supposed to listen 20 minutes, but his thing's 35 minutes or a half hour, and I'm listening to the whole thing. I'm like, all right, I went over my time frame, whatever, not the end of the world. It's extra credit, I guess. And then I find myself really enjoying it, which is disturbing me because I don't want to enjoy this. I'm doing it because I was given a job and a task. I don't want to actually like this now. I have other things. I want to listen to the news. I want to make phone calls, call clients, whatever it is. And then I find myself listening to it on the way home also. So now I'm doing a half hour there, a half hour. Now I'm in the hole for a whole hour here, right? And I'm really getting annoyed, even though secretly I'm really enjoying it. Anyway, my son ends up getting engaged. Okay, this is prior. And we go, this rabbi in Brooklyn, they want to host an event for my son for like an engagement thing.
Right.
So we go, and after the like kind of party thing and the prayer session, whatever, we go in to talk to him privately. He's taking each person in to talk to him privately, this big rabbi. So I said to him, I took a preemptive strike, and I said to him, listen, I go, you were very smart. You knew that if you told me to learn Torah for an hour a day, I'd probably say no. But you gave me a minimal task. He said, do 20 minutes, not the end of the world, right? You knew I would like this, and you knew I'd be at an hour a day, and now I'm doing an hour a day, and I'm enjoying it. I hope you're happy. I said, but before you have any ideas, don't give me any more assignments. If I do more on my own, I do more on my own, but please, I'm not looking for more jobs. I do podcasts. I do my police stuff. I have a regular job. I'm busy. So he's laughing. He's a very good sense of humor. Anyway, so I thanked him because he gave me this task to do. I ended up enjoying it, doing it for an hour. And I'm really enjoying this one rabbi, this Rabbi Moshe Chaim, who does these sermons. And the next day I'm in the car and I said to myself, he's in Jerusalem. I said, next time I go to Jerusalem, I want to go to this guy's school where he teaches. I want to stop in there and I want to thank him for doing these sermons and putting them on YouTube because I'm absorbing so much knowledge. Not only am I getting the credit for the next life and obeying what the rabbi said, I'm actually really enjoying it and soaking up a tremendous amount of knowledge. I said, I promise when next time I'm in Jerusalem, I am going to meet this guy. I'm going to go to his school, knock on that door and thank him. Because I'm a big believer that when someone's doing something, that they should be given the credit for what they're doing so that they know what they're doing is motivating people, it's touching people in their lives. And I think that provides them incentive to continue doing good things. Right. So I felt that was something really important for him and for me. Okay, so Wednesday rolls around when we're in Israel. And I said to myself, oh, geez, I didn't say geez. I shouldn't say that. That's not my religion. I said, I said, I made a promise. And in Judaism, words mean something. When you give a promise or you give your word, it's like a big thing that you have to keep your word. So we're sitting by the hotel. My son goes to prayers. He's very pious. He spends an hour doing it. I'm wrapping it up in 10 minutes and I'm waiting for him on my phone. He's finally done. He's walking towards me and he goes, oh, I forgot. Now I have to do the evening prayers because there's like an afternoon one and an evening one. I'm like, oh my God, I just want to get back to the hotel. You're getting married tomorrow. I go, let's not push our luck and let's not get killed here. We're out in a place we shouldn't be. He's like, no, we got to do it. I go, fine. Again, he's in there for an hour. I'm in there for 10 minutes. And during the day, by the way, we met with a friend of mine who took us touring around all over the place, and it was like expending a lot of time. So the whole day was like being dragged out. And, I was getting a little annoyed because I wanted to get this moving along and get the day wrapped up. So we were in places we weren't supposed to be. We were there at times we shouldn't be there. And everything is just like not what it's supposed to be, running on schedule. Anyway, so I'm playing on my phone a little bit while my son is doing the evening prayers. And then I just look up for a second and I glance to the side. I'm like, oh, that guy looks familiar. I'm like, he got these long, like, payas and the long beard, really like heavy duty looking rabbi. And I'm like, well, they all look the same anyway. So whatever. And I go back to my phone. I'm like, no, I know that guy. I'm like, I know that face. So I put my phone down and I turn around. He's already like a bunch of steps ahead. So I run, I catch up to him and I'm like, excuse me. And he turns around. I go, oh my God, Rabbi Moshe Chaim? And he goes, yes. And I go, oh my God. I go, do you understand the magnitude of what's occurring right now? He goes, no, but please tell me. I go, you don't even understand what just happened. I go, I promised that when I came to Jerusalem, there was one person that I was going to come and see. And you know as well as I know that in Judaism, when you give your word, you make a promise, it means something and you're not supposed to break it. I didn't have time to find you. And the one person I see at this location is you, the one that I promised to see. And the guy is literally standing in front of me.
Wow.
It was not to be believed. And I gave him the whole backstory about how this Kolover rabbi told me to learn, and his sermons are the ones that I listened to, and that's why I promised to come see him. And the guy was like blown away, and I was blown away, and it was like ridiculous. So I said, he goes, well, what brings you to Jerusalem? I said, my son's getting married. He goes, let me give him a blessing for getting married. And I walk towards my son. I'm like, Jordan. He's like, oh my God, Rabbi Moshe Chaim. I'm like, yeah. He was also like blown away. I go, he wants to give you a blessing for the wedding. I go, the one person I promised it, and I told my son the thing. He's like, that's like ridiculous. It doesn't even make any sense. And that was like the completion of the circle, how all these little pieces were coming together. And then all of a sudden, the guy is literally standing in front of me. Now, here's the other part of it, which is weird. I didn't get to tell him this part because this happened after he left. I desperately wanted to introduce my wife to him because my wife knows who he is also because she listens to the things in the house also. And I made up a time to meet with my wife in a certain location, like by this washing station. And so I told him, I'm like, Rabbi, you got to meet my wife, whatever. Now, just a quick thing. My wife, we weren't planning on going to this holy location. And when you go to a holy location in Judaism, you're supposed to dress modestly and appropriately. Women are not supposed to wear pants. You're not supposed to wear short sleeves. And my wife, because we weren't planning on going there, my son, spur of the moment, made us go, was wearing pants. And I don't remember if she's wearing long sleeves or short sleeves, but whatever. Completely inappropriate for the location. Not blaming her because she didn't know we were going. So we go to the washing station. I told my, this is where we will meet, like within a half hour. This is already an hour later. So I get there, she's not there. I'm calling her, she's not answering the phone. And I'm like, I tried for like 2 minutes. I don't want to hold the guy back. And I'm like, listen, I really want you to meet her, but she's not here. So I'll let it go. And we'll be back next time in Jerusalem. I'll bring her to meet you. He walks away. Maybe he's gone 15 seconds. And I just look over. My wife's sitting like right on the railing, like literally within 10 feet of me. And I'm like, Karen. And she turns around. I'm like, what the? You weren't answering your phone? She's like, I didn't hear. I shut the ringer off because we're in a spot that's holy. I don't want my phone ring. I'm like, you got to come here. You got to meet this guy. Now, bear in mind, it's like virtually empty. There's like almost no one there. I'm like, come here. He's right over here. And I turn around. He's gone. He's not there. And it's a long walk up that path. It was like 15 seconds and the guy was gone. Now, my belief was that God did not want him to meet her in inappropriate, immodest clothing. Because it's not that you have to dress modestly just for you. You're supposed to dress modestly so that other people that are looking at you don't have those thoughts in their head out of respect for them. So I believe that God whisked him away quickly as to not have to have him see my wife in inappropriate attire. Okay. And that's the part I wanted to share with him. And I've reached out to him and hopefully I can get in touch with him. But the whole thing was just such a mind-blowing experience. And I'll just tell you one other thing and then I'll wrap it up. So what he said to me, one of the things he said to me when we were there, after I was telling him the whole experience, and he was also very moved by it, he goes, amazing things happen when you're at the Kotel. Again, the Kotel being the Western Wall. And I agree with him, but I didn't know why he was. I mean, I know why he's saying it because it's a holy place. It's special things happen, and it's the most holy place for the Jewish people in the entire world.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, I was watching a video that he did, an interview with this organization, and he was giving his backstory because he didn't always used to be religious. He was very secular, and he was talking about what happened that made him religious. And it turns out that when he was a kid, he went on a trip called Birthright. Birthright is a free trip that all Jewish children are able to take to go to visit Israel. It's paid for with an endowment from a couple of very wealthy Jewish people that set it up. So he said that when he was younger, he went to Birthright and he was at the kotel, at the wall, praying, and he got a tap on the shoulder from someone. And he turned around. The guy said, "Are you Jewish?" And the rabbi, at the time, he wasn't rabbi. He was not even really so religious. He goes, "Yes." He goes, "Well, I want to talk to you and I want to show you where we learn and the things that we do." And he went with him. And it was because of that tap on the shoulder and that experience that he ended up staying in Israel and becoming extremely religious and becoming a rabbi and taking an entire path different than the path he was on because of one tap of the shoulder in that location by a stranger. And that's when I was watching that today, I said, that's why he said not only this occasion, but the one that happened to him, amazing things happened at the kotel and it changed his life. So I'm sorry if I monopolized.
A remarkable story.
Are you being sarcastic?
Yes, I am, Jonathan.
I was really like, I'm 51 years old and it really takes a lot to blow me away because, I've been through a lot of things. I'm kind of hardened to things that, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's not a big deal. This one literally knocked my socks off. And the only people I told this to were my immediate family that live in my house. And on Friday and Saturday after the wedding, we did like this weekend thing for family and everything. And I had to speak. Well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to speak Friday night and I wanted to speak Saturday. And on Saturday, I mentioned this whole thing that I just spoke about right now. And everyone was just like really blown away by the irony of what happened. I'm not going to say coincidence. It was very, I don't know, is that the wrong word?
I know. Irony kind of implies that it was funny, I think. But it sounds more like something that was more pious, more sacred.
It was just, I didn't have words to describe how insane that was in terms of my life and everything that had happened around that event. So I wanted to share that with you. In the next segment, we'll talk not about this. We'll talk about just the war and what's going on there, and we have some perspectives that we can share on that. But I just felt that this was something so spiritual and so driven by God that I really wanted to share that with our listeners and with you because I hadn't told you because I just thought it was such a monumental event in my life.
Well, Jonathan, thank you for bearing your raw emotions on the set and sharing your story with us. And I always say that everything is relative. This has been a very impactful experience for Jonathan for more reasons than one. And if you've listened to his story, I'm sure you get why he is so excited and passionate about this. But I know as humans how we are, some people might be listening to this, not understanding why you're so excited and not being able to relate. And I hope, and my hope is we are all learning to listen to people's enthusiasm, people's beliefs, and being happy, supportive, and passionate for them. Even if your support is just an acknowledging this was an authentic experience for this person that meant a lot. So Jonathan, I'm so happy for you and your family, and Jordan and your wife. Congratulations. And I'm really grateful to God that your entire family went to Israel at a time like this, got married, and you're back safely. And I wish you both many, many, many years of happy life and a lot more children than your parents had.
She could be pregnant already. Who knows? The very religious don't use birth control. So, who knows?
And so we thank you so much for watching. How can you say that? the podcast that is so full of surprises. And we will see you next time with our second episode.
Thank you for listening and allowing me to share. Good night.